Hi guys, it is now several hours later because a student needed me, and there you go. So we're talking about vouloir, devoir and pouvoir, the modal verbs, and what you need to remember is often you will hear this as to be able to have to, and we very much forget that a lot of the time because in English, devoir, to have to, often manifests as, you know, I must. You can say I have to, you can say I must, and you will have tonal, you know, appreciations on that level yourself. There'll be times when must versus have to will make you feel a little bit more obliged or less obliged or this kind of thing. So be very careful. The verb is to, not to must. So I must go, I am going to have to go. If you needed to use it in the infinitive form, it would be to have to. And the same with pouvoir, to be able to. You know, I can, I am going to be able to, rather than I'm going to can and all of this business. So, in other words then, so let's just do a few where we practice popping in vouloir, devoir or pouvoir. So, I'm going to eat, je vais manger, I'm going to have to eat, je vais devoir manger, I'm going to be able to eat, je vais pouvoir manger, I'm going to want to eat, je vais vouloir manger. And they're really common. Ooh, it's 1 o'clock, I'm going to have to eat. Ouais, je vais devoir manger. I'm going to want to eat in a bit. Ouais, je vais vouloir manger. Well, I hope I'm going to be able to eat. Ouais, j'espère que je vais pouvoir manger. So you often use these. These are, in fact, the main verbs that you tend to slide in when it comes to, stacking verbs. Good. More on those later. Just be aware that if you stack verbs, the first verb can obviously be in a different tense. So if it's, for example, I can do it, je peux le faire, then you could obviously also have je pouvais le faire, je pourrais le faire, depending on which tense you're in. I want to do it, je veux le faire, je voulais le faire, je voudrais le faire, je dois le faire, j'ai dû le faire, je devais le faire, je devrais le faire. Be aware that obviously if you're using one of those modal verbs as the actual first verb, yeah, we won't always be stacking them on the back of go, then those could change tenses. Apologies, I've done a negative COVID test, but I have got a cold today, sound a little bit nasal. So, next up then, so we've spoken about where the pronoun goes towards the end. We've spoken about using devoir, vouloir, pouvoir. Let's talk about what happens if the verbs you are using take prepositions. So for example, to try to takes essayer de. You don't need to say essayer de every single time you say try. If you say I've tried, alors moi j'ai essayé. You don't need to say j'ai essayé de. But if you say I tried to finish, alors j'ai essayé de finir. Decide to, décider de. I decided to finish, j'ai décidé de finir. To start, commencer à. So I started to write, alors j'ai commencé à écrire. To continue, which will often present itself as I kept writing, j'ai continué à écrire. You will often hear continuer de, continuer à. I personally prefer continuer à in this usage. I think continuer de is a little bit soutenu, a bit refined for everyday usage. So, for example, then, if you said, I'm going to keep working, je vais continuer à travailler. I'm going to keep doing it. Je vais continuer à le faire. I'm going to try to keep doing it. Je vais essayer de continuer à le faire. Oui, je vais essayer de continuer à le faire. Which, if you just go, oh my God, what is going on there? Then practice stacking infinitives. Yeah, so in other words, verbs which take prepositions are very, very commonly, you know, within the stack of infinitives. It could be the first verb. I'm trying to be able to do it. Alors j'essaie de pouvoir le faire. Or I'm going to try to be able to do it. Alors moi je vais essayer de pouvoir le faire. Wherever the essayer falls, you will need that de. Good. The next idea, before we have a multi-quiz, batshit crazy all together at the end, is when your verb that you are playing with is a phrasal verb. So I've spoken about this before, how strictly speaking in grammar, a phrasal verb is a verb where you take a verb and you would add a preposition to make it something slightly different. So get is opposed to get on, get off, get down, get with, get across. But for the language learner, I think phrasal verb is a lovely term to talk about verbs which just need a bag of tricks. So, for example, I get along with Luke. you know, je m'entends bien avec Luc. And like I've previously said, there are times when your phrasal verb matches, you know, it's a phrasal verb in French, it's a phrasal verb in English, or it could be a phrasal verb in English and just a simple verb in French, or it could be a simple verb in English and a phrasal verb in French. You know, so you have to, so I'm going to visit, you know, my mom. Alors moi, je vais rendre visite à ma mère. So the thing with phrasal verbs is that often they do weird things with grammar that you don't normally need to pay attention to. So for example, a noun will always have an article before it, but if you use, or something of that ilk, and if you use a phrasal verb, it might break that rule. So for example, to visit, as we've said with a person, rendre visite à. Visite here is not a verb, it's not to visit, it's rendre a visit to, but we don't say rendre une visite à, we say rendre visite. Likewise, I tend to, j'ai tendance à. We don't say j'ai une tendance à or anything like this. So sometimes phrasal verbs mess up in your mouth. So if you said, I'm going to tend to, you know, je vais avoir tendance à, you need to remember that sequence. So rather than just being one infinitive and then one preposition to remember, you've got to remember the whole combo. You're going to have to remember this double. So I'm going to try to visit my mother. Alors je vais essayer de rendre visite à ma mère. I'm going to try to visit her. Je vais essayer de lui rendre visite. Okay, and your brain would have gone, oh, hang on, I thought we popped pronouns to the last but one. We do, but the infinitive in rendre visite is rendre. So as I've said before with phrasal verbs, the trick is to make sure that you find out what is the conjugational verb in the phrasal verb. So rendre visite, the word that we play with is rendre. Se rendre compte, yeah? It's going to be rendre. Good, let's move on and then we'll have a big shitstorm at the end. So the next idea to be aware of, specifically within phrasal verbs, is ABCs. These will crop up beautifully at the end in a sequence, just like any of the verbs. So that means a reflexive verb which takes a preposition at the end, or as I used to rather crudely say, but it does work, a reflexive verb with a dick on the end. So basically, if you said, I'm going to remember the situation, je vais me souvenir de la situation. Or je vais me rappeler la situation. Je vais me souvenir de la situation. I'm going to have to remember the situation. Alors moi, je vais devoir me souvenir de la situation. I'm going to have to get used to doing the work. You can use a phrasal verb to go into another verb. You can use an ABC to go into another verb. Je vais devoir m'habituer à faire le travail. I'm going to have to get used to trying to do it or something. Alors, je vais devoir m'habituer à essayer de le faire. In theory, you know. So what we're really seeing is that you can stack these verbs, but they all have their different little law as to how you pop them one on top of each other. Good, so I think it's about time that we had a little go at just putting some of these together. So remember that the adverbs, remember that actually, that's a very good point, adverbs. Adverbs go after verb number one. So if you're saying I'm doing it, je le fais, I do it well, je le fais bien. I never do it, je ne le fais jamais. I am never going to try to carry on doing it. Je ne vais jamais essayer de continuer à le faire. Then you're not going to need to worry too much. The adverbs will be dealt with earlier on. Good. So let's try our little combo. I'm happy to try to be able to do it. I'm happy to try to be able to do it. Je suis content d'essayer de pouvoir le faire. Ouais, je suis content d'essayer de pouvoir le faire. I'm happy to carry on. I'm happy to start. I'm happy to have to start doing it. I'm happy to have to. Well, look, you're going to have to start. You're going to have to start it. I'm happy to have to start doing it. Moi, je suis content de devoir commencer à le faire. Moi, je suis content de devoir commencer à le faire. I'm going to. He wants to decide. You know, he needs to decide to start doing it. He needs to decide to start doing it. Il a besoin de décider de... He needs to decide to start doing it. Il a besoin de décider... Decide to start doing it. Il a besoin de décider de commencer à le faire. Il a besoin de décider de commencer à le faire. These are more of a vocal exercise to make sure that you remember commencer à, décider de. But in theory, they do exist. You do completely get stacks. He should have wanted to try to do it. He should have wanted to try to do it. Why didn't he do it? He should have wanted to do it. He should have wanted to try to do it. Il aurait dû vouloir essayer de le faire. Il aurait dû vouloir essayer de le faire. Notice there, vouloir doesn't have anything else after it. So, il aurait dû, he should have. Il aurait dû vouloir. So we've got devoir there. It's just been used in the would have tense. So, il aurait dû vouloir essayer de le faire. He never should have tried to remember. He never should have tried to get used to doing it. It's too much for him. He never should have tried to get used to doing it. Il aurait jamais dû essayer de s'habituer à le faire. Il aurait jamais dû essayer de s'habituer à le faire. Il aurait jamais dû essayer de s'habituer à le faire. Couple more. I'm going to need to find them. I'm going to need to find them. Je vais avoir besoin de les trouver. I'm going to... but you need to want to have to find... You need to want to find them. But you need to want to find them. Yeah? Mais tu dois avoir envie de les trouver. Tu dois vouloir les trouver. He could never have started to do it without you. He could never have started to do it without you. He could never have started to do it without you. Il aurait jamais pu commencer à le faire sans toi. Il aurait jamais pu commencer à le faire sans toi. Good. So in overview, these are just some silly little combos that you need to remember. Most of the time, they'll be much shorter, much shorter. We are remembering. There are verbs that you can just slot in. Vouloir, devoir, pouvoir. For some reason, a lot of people always want to use vouloir de. Gabby, this is a shout out to you. Yeah, and there's other verbs that we need to remember will always have their a or their de respectively. You know, they just will. Essayer de, commencer à, etc. There are verbs that we could use with these. So the idea being then that a lot of these verbs with the prepositions could then be in the middle and you could go on to other verbs. So I'm going to have to allow her to start doing it. Well, I'm going to have to allow her to start doing it. You know, my daughter wants to wear makeup. I'm going to have to allow her to start doing it. Je vais devoir lui permettre de commencer à le faire. Ouais, mais je vais devoir lui permettre, what did I say? I'm going to have to start allowing her to, mais je vais devoir commencer à lui permettre de le faire. Or je vais devoir, what did I say? I'm going to have to allow her to start doing it, rather than I'm going to have to start allowing her. I'm going to have to allow her to start doing it. Je vais devoir lui permettre de commencer à le faire. And then we've got the phrasals that we've spoken about, that often the phrasal will come at the end. So if you've got something like, j'en ai marre, I'm sick of. I don't want, he doesn't want to have to be sick of it. Il veut pas devoir en avoir marre. Il veut pas devoir en avoir marre. Often the phrasal could kind of come in the middle of it. It's an ABC, like to get used to, like I've said, or s'intéresser à, to be interested in, for example. That's an ABC. So he's going to start being interested in finishing it or something. You know, il va devoir, he's going to have to start being interested. Il va devoir commencer à s'intéresser à le finir. I mean, some of these are a vocal example. I keep making that point, but the rules is rules. So you understand my point. In comparison now, he's going to have to finish it. Il va devoir le finir would be an absolute cakewalk for you. An absolute cakewalk. It'd be the easiest thing in the world. Good. I hope this is useful. So, like I said, devoir, vouloir, pouvoir would be the nice modal verbs, D-E-V-O-I-R, P-O-U-V-O-I-R, V-O-U-L-O-I-R. Then we've got verbs commencer à, to start to, décider de, to decide to, essayer de, to try to, continuer à ou de, to carry on. Then we've got the ABCs that we discussed, which were s'intéresser à, to be interested in, s'habituer à, to be interested, to get used to, se souvenir de, to remember, etc., etc. Yeah, and then we had some other phrasals that I mentioned along the way. Do let me know if this was useful. Yeah, try underneath and see what verb stacks you can give me, and let's see if they're correct. All right, good. All right, I'll speak to you guys soon. If this is useful, please click like. Please remember I have a coffee account. The link will be underneath. And yeah, fabulous. Take care, guys. Speak soon.